Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. As you know, every week we bring you amazing resources in the venture capital world. And today we are talking to Milemark Capital and the founders of that amazing fund, which is Adela Jamal, Michael Lipton, and Sebastian Barriga. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Welcome to the show. Well, what I want to do is, I love having read your bios that each of you brings different strengths to the table. And I always think that makes the best team. Like, if everybody had the same strength, it wouldn't be quite as powerful, right? So you each have such unique backgrounds. And I want to talk about that, talk about how you all came together. And then, of course, what is Milemark Capital and who are you looking to fund? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? For our listeners anyway. So Adela, let's start with you. You have such an interesting background, having been born in India and growing up in both India and the US. Let's talk a little bit about your background in tech and finance and your passion for the diversity and inclusion that you bring to the table.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. Happy to share my story. So yes, a little bit of a different sort of windy road on my side. And as you mentioned, I was born and raised in Bangalore, India, so in the South. And my father is South Indian, my mother is white American. So for me, I've actually grown up with a very different perspective around what it means to be a woman in business, a woman in technology, and also just the challenges that women face growing up in both countries. And I'll also say that, when I actually started out and worked in Silicon Valley, I started my career working for VC and a tech health startup there. I was very cognizant of the fact that I was usually the only woman in the room, and diversity was something that was clearly lacking. This is, early 2000s. And so as I sort of progressed in my career and, loved everything that was happening with technology, with innovation, I was really just aware that if I wasn't thinking bigger and also thinking about the next person who was coming behind me, there was going to be a complete void. And I've always had this sort of, I'd say personal drive to do more, to think differently, and also pull those along who maybe don't have the mentorship and the support that they need to sort of, climb up that ladder, as you might think about. And again,
here's the thing. You bring the female perspective to the table that we are talking about in our movie coming out called Show Her the Money, that women are so underfunded in this space. We need more women's perspective at all of these funds. So how lucky is Milemark Capital to have your female perspective and experience in this space and seeing, how women are underserved in this arena. So great that you bring that perspective to this particular Milemark Capital Fund. I'm sure the guys agree with that.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Absolutely. And, I think it also just kind of points to like, we're stronger together. We have to think about what the impact is across the board. And even just working with, the team here at Milemark, like we're always thinking about that, right? So it's not just about one perspective. It's about, okay, well, what are we doing sort of a macro and a micro perspective? And then also what's the journey that we're on, and also the founder's journey, and how we align to that. And we'll dig into that a little bit further.
And that makes perfect sense, what you're saying about having both perspectives. And that goes for every vertical, right, guys? Every vertical, the research shows every company that has both men and women at the top are the most successful and the most profitable, because let's face it, we bring different perspectives to the table, and it's so important to have both. So let's kick it over to Mike Lipton. What is your background, Mike? I know you have a different background in engineering, right?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Catherine. So I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an engineer. really the last 15 years of my career has been around building businesses. So I've founded 3 companies, served each as either CEO or COO, and I've been a part of the creation of many others, either as an advisor or a director. So my software development days are behind me, but I bring an engineer's mindset to the composition and creation of the earliest stages of company development and creation.
I mean, and how invaluable is that to the people that you're funding? I mean, this is amazing. And I was reading that you have like a $30 million company called Luster. Is that correct? Am I right about that?
Yeah, so Luster was the last company that I founded. We started in 2015. I've since stepped away, and I'm focused on Milemark Capital, and I've always optimized for impact. I find that at this point, I can have the most profound impact by helping a portfolio of companies and of entrepreneurs and getting them from 0 to 1. So that's really been my focus and my passion. And
what entrepreneur wouldn't want to work with you? I mean, my gosh, you're starting a tech company. Mike's the guy, right? I mean,
that's kind of you. I feel lucky just to be in the room with my partners. So that's kind of you, but I feel like I need to work hard to try to earn my keep when I'm around.
And that's my
folks.
point. Each one of you brings something prospectively different to the table of the person or the company that you all are investing in. So, you bring that aspect. Adela brings another aspect. And then let's talk to Sebastian. What's your background? I know you're an investor. You've also lived in various places around the world. I know you all have a lot of global experience, which I think is invaluable as well, that a lot of people don't have. So yeah, Seb, jump in.
Sure, thanks. And Catherine, it's so great to be here. Thanks for the time. My background is I've always been in finance. The past 10 years, I was investing in private companies for one of the largest funds in the US, running the Latin American operation. And there, what I would say, one of the key takeaways is how to be a value-added board member. And that means not meeting with management. That means finding out what that management team requires to succeed and thrive. So design that strategy and help in that execution. And I would say that that was probably the first time that it was very tangible to me what diversity brings to the table. So half of our portfolio companies were run by women. And in 2 of them, it was security companies. So it's it's armored trucks, it's drills and all that, and wonderful strategists and the incredible leaders. And that was I don't want to say eye-opening, but it was very concrete to me that okay, this is the value of bringing different perspectives and avoiding groupthink to the decisions that you have to make in a company, in a group, to reach better outcomes.
Yeah, and I've seen you've sat on the boards of some major companies. I noticed Hermes, of course, and some others that are really impressive, the GNN brands, and to have someone like you on their board. And that's what I'm trying to say is, what a fortunate entrepreneur to have your fund get behind them with your perspectives. You're the 3 of you, and I believe you have a 4th partner, and we'll talk about that. But that diversity inclusion, the success in the tech world and engineering things, and then having a board member that sat on some really big boards to advise them. This combination of your team pretty much ensures the super success of someone that you all get behind. And your 4th partner, who would like to mention that?
Yeah, so our 4th partner named Sinan and Raul. All of us met at MIT. So Seb, Adela, myself met as Sloan Fellows. Sinan is a professor at MIT and a researcher there, and has been for 20 odd years. And but he brings a lot to the table beyond that. He's also an entrepreneur and an operator, founded and exited 2 companies, and has been a GP at a Series A firm, so also a tech investor.
Wow, you guys are a powerful team, no doubt. And the program that you all were in at MIT, tell me a little bit about that. Like, it sounds like, you all met there. What an amazing opportunity to meet amazing people. What was the program you were all involved in that you met at?
Sure, I can share about that briefly. So the program that we all took the time to pursue is called the MIT Sloan Fellows MBA. So it is a full-time in-person MBA, but more for executives, which is different from an MBA because that's just flying in maybe, once a month to take courses. And I think something that all of us have been really, intentional about is sort of focusing and making space for what we wanted in our careers. And that was, 12 months that each of us dedicated to be in Cambridge, to be on campus at MIT, to sort of, think differently and be surrounded by, I would say, very similar thought leaders, but also a very global group of individuals, which you sometimes don't get once you get down into your career and you're sort of, head down, forging ahead. And so we actually met, socially and then also in classes together and started to bond that relationship. So we've known each other now, 2 years almost.
So what is the purpose of that program? Someone's listening, they don't know much about that program. You have to, I take it, apply, get accepted into it. And then the purpose of that program is what?
Sure, I can add on, and of course the team can jump in. So for me, when I was evaluating options as a mid-career professional, you don't really have too many that are going to fit, let's say, a 12-month requirement. So for me, that was something that was going to be really important as far as a time commitment and also in person. And so it is an MBA. So when you graduate, you are getting your MBA. And of course, for many people, that's important as compared to maybe a master's degree. And from the research that I had conducted, not many schools are offering this. So MIT is actually one of the few. Stanford does have the MSX program, but again, it's not an MBA. And I believe London Business School also has something similar. So MIT is very unique in what they've created. And the Sloan School, of course, is quite famous and has a great reputation. So I just knew that it was the right sort of intersection, especially for what I needed and where I was in my career.
And I agree with you with that reputation and, people looking at it saying, oh my gosh, all these founders of this particular firm, are Sloan veterans. So I think that definitely is something to draw people to want to have you get behind them as opposed to other venture capital firms. And this is the first fund that you all are doing together. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
And let's talk about the thesis for this fund, because we all know, as for my listeners, that every fund is not one they should be applying to. It has to fit the thesis. Who wants to share what the thesis is? Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So our thesis is we invest in diverse teams, building scalable businesses that are differentiated and defended by proprietary AI systems, models, and data. All right, so there's a few really key components to that. As far as the teams that we look for, diversity is critical, right? And so that's diversity of thought, that's diversity of background, and that puts you in a position to build the most successful business that you possibly can. When it comes to the underlying technology, we're looking at AI in a really broad sense, but we can drill down into some specific industries there. We strongly believe that AI is going to touch every corner of society and rewrite every industry. The business models will be rewritten over the course of this next decade. So then for us to take it one step further, given that we met at MIT, MIT is an important part of the fund. And so when we look at sourcing deals, we want to lean into the industries that MIT and also Harvard is, a combination forming this square mile of innovation in Cambridge. What are they the best at? And so that gives us a lot of latitude to be able to work across industries. And so we will look at a fintech company one day, and then a health tech company the next. And there's a lot of room in between.
So mainly tech companies that are involved in the AI arena.
That's exactly right.
That's it. Oh, and Sebastian, might you or Adela want to share with us like a sample of a company that you all have invested in or plan to invest in?
Sure. Maybe to add to what was said already is one of the important things that we realized, and that's how we came together. So we've seen how capital shapes the world, the present and the future. And if you combine that with this disruptive technology, that is going to give birth to new startups, to new business models, to new cultures, we believe this is the right point of intervention to help those founders, to help those companies that are truly going to shape society.
Right. Impact the world in a huge way. And you're so right. This is something that our movie touches on, called Show Her the Money, is that, if women aren't funded, if people, if LGBTQ or people of color, if they're not funded, we're leaving so many ideas and innovations on the wayside that could help impact and change the world for the better. And so it's so important, the work you all are doing to get diversity and inclusion in the arena of venture capital. What you all are doing is groundbreaking, game changing, and so important to that arena. And so I'm so happy to hear that that's really a focus of yours. Adela, what is what kind of companies are you all looking for specifically, that you could enhance the explanation that the guys just jumped in with?
Sure. And apologies, there's a background noise here. So, you asked a moment ago, what are we looking for and who are we supporting? So one of the companies that I can talk about here, and Seb can of course jump in, is called Piction Health. And that is a company that we are, so excited and proud to get behind, because it is led by a female founder. So Susan Conover and her partner Pranav, who is Indian, launched this company. They're out of sort of our sweet spot, which is the MIT Harvard ecosystem. And what she has created, is really built from her own personal experiences. She's been diagnosed with melanoma 3 times. She saw firsthand the struggles of getting the care, getting to the dermatologist, and also the lack of the timeliness there to get the care that was required. So what she's built is actually using AI, computer vision, an application that you can use on your phone to very easily scan a skin rash, something that maybe looks like an abnormal mole, and get that to your virtual dermatologist. And it's really impressive because right now she has, 10x the number of images that Google has in its database. And she's also very aware of what diversity means in that field and the lack of it. So she's also pushing to get diverse images. And I believe right now there's about a 93% accuracy rate. So just think about the experiences of someone who's pursuing this type of requirement, looking for this type of care. And now if you can, get behind what Piction has developed and sort of give everybody that power in their hands, I mean, it's revolutionary, right? And we just absolutely are impressed by what they're doing and the pivots that they're making. Seb, do you want to add
really
on?
Cool. What's the name of the company again?
Piction Health.
Piction Health. Yeah, that does seem to be the future, doesn't it? I'm hearing about all these different companies coming out where, they diagnose, the children's earache or, things like this are all being done now thanks to technology and AI. And I think there'll be a lot less doctor visits, and this way it can be handled more more quickly, more effectively. So yeah, that's really groundbreaking, and glad to hear that a woman is doing that, and that you are getting behind that woman, because with us getting less than 2% of venture capital, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those are the kind of inventions and innovations that really can save lives. And if women don't get the funding, that's going to be left on the side. So perfect example, so thanks for bringing that up, Adela. What do you all think is the future for your company and just for venture capital in general? Like, are you all seeing like a kind of move toward, funding more women and people of color and LGBTQ, all these underserved communities that we haven't been funding? How do you all see that happening, being in this space yourselves?
Or let me tell you what I think, and I'm sure Adela can do it a lot better than me. But I think it's the right point of intervention. At MIT, you're taught about system dynamics, and you see the entire system, and you see where's the right point of intervention to change the system, right? to pivot towards what you want to do. That's a big part of the program. A lot of people come here for a pivot to significance because we're all doing our job really well. We are comfortable, But at some point in time, it's like, what is my legacy? In my case, I have 3 daughters. She was applying to college. I was applying to this program, and I was thinking, okay, what's example that I'm giving my daughters? What am I doing? Okay, yes, I can bring food to the table. I can pay for their education. So I feel, check as that. But what else? Can I do both? Can I bring impact and can I provide for the family? So that was a big driver. So in terms of VC, this goes in hand with the technology, with AI being a driver of productivity, a driver of an engine of growth. A lot of companies are going to merge. The incumbents are going to lose out because it's hard to steer that Titanic. So a lot of value is going to be created, and we want to be there where that value is being born and help the right people to get that reality out in the market with different backgrounds, with a society that's more just and understanding instead of being polarized, having space for everyone. And I also believe when everyone thrives, when everyone is fulfilled, you live happier and better.
Absolutely. And I'm so curious, since each of you are so successful. I mean, Mike, you've had, 3 super successful companies. What made you decide to jump over into venture capital?
It's really comes back to impact. And so for me, I want to be able to have the biggest impact that I can on a societal level. And if I can help dozens of entrepreneurs push their companies forward and grow those companies, that's something that's really compelling to me.
It is, and isn't it? It's the most exciting world to be in on a daily basis. You get to hear about all the innovations before everybody else. I feel that way. I meet the smartest people. They're doing the coolest things. I'm thinking, who wouldn't want to be in this arena and be a part of it? Not to mention that, you can invest in things and have a lucrative return. And I always encourage my listeners, to invest in especially funds that are getting behind women and people of color and LGBTQ, but also just to learn about the venture capital world. They don't even know what they're missing. And it is one of the reasons that we're creating this movie. And by the way, Adela, you'll be so happy to hear that one of the women in our film is a founder who got funding, and she is out of India. She's like the Kim Kardashian of India. It's called Indie Wild, and her name is Deepa.
I saw that incredible story.
Yeah, so happy to put a global spin on the impact of funding women in our film. And so anything you'd like to say as we wrap up? Of course, I'm going to tell people how they can find Milemark Capital and how they can reach each of you. I take it you're each on LinkedIn, right?
We are.
Yeah. And we're going to spell your names because a lot of people aren't watching. They're listening on their Apple or Spotify or, iHeart, wherever they're listening to their podcast. So I just want to mention it is Adela, Adela, and then Jamal, Jamal. Seb Barriga, do you go on as in LinkedIn as Sebastian?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so it's Sebastian, and then Barriga, and then of course Michael Lipton, and that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's Lipton. Okay, so they can find you on LinkedIn, which is awesome. It's a wonderful place to connect with people. How could people can people submit a deck on your website?
At this point, email is going to be the best way to reach us. So it's Lipton@milemark.capital, Seb@milemark.capital, or Adela@milemark.capital.
That's right.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Are you guys also on other social media that we should mention?
I am on Twitter, but much more active on LinkedIn. That's the best way to find me.
Yeah, LinkedIn. And what is the website for Milemark Capital?
It will be milemark.capital. We have a grand launch coming soon.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. Milemark.capital. You'll be able to find them there by the time this airs, I'm sure. And so great to have you all on today. we also, I like to let my viewers know that obviously we are on Instagram, Catherine Gray at Invest in Her. It's so important that we invest in women, and that's why we had on Milemark Capital today, because Adela Jamal is part of that group. And we are so happy to have more and more women in the venture capital funds. As we all know, there are not a lot of female decision makers in this space yet, but every day that's changing and accelerating. And there are also more female founded funds than ever in history. And we hope that keeps growing as well. You can also find us at sheangelinvestors.com. If you want to get in touch with anyone on the show today, you can also reach out to me, and you can follow She Angel Investors on all of the social media. And also, of course, follow our movie, Show Her the Money movie, on Instagram and our website. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We are so happy to put Milemark Capital on their radar. If they have a product or service or software that fits the thesis for you all, we hope that you all will connect. Thank you for doing the amazing work that you're doing in the world to help change it and to help make the world a better place. Thanks for being guests.
Thank you
so much,
Catherine.
Catherine.